others rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Have you in your life maybe been rejected, abandoned? You feel discouraged, sad? You feel the future is dark and gloomy? You feel there is no hope of tomorrow? Yes? Wait. Let me enter your home and shock you with a beautiful story of a blind lawyer. She's beautiful. She's a model. Now, if a blind lady can, what about you? When you feel you lost hope, why? Why do you feel there is no hope? Please, let me in your home to motivate you and inspire you with our beautiful lady here today. Her name is Mary Omoyeme Musa. She's very pretty. If you see her, you're like, wow, is she disabled? How? Today, we will explain how she coped against all odds. How? Please, keep watching as I bring to you Ability Plus, a program on NTA knowledge that brings to your doorsteps to tell the story of persons with disabilities, their challenges, the situation they face in the communities, and how they overcome and survive. That is Ability Plus. Once again, welcome back to Ability Plus. You remember I talked about meeting a blind lawyer, a model, beautiful to the core. Wow, you're like desiring to see her. Same like me. Just wait, she's here. Let's meet her. Welcome, Mary. Hello, once again. We are back with our guest. Who is she? Do you want to meet her? She's beautiful, I bet you. Her name is Mary Omojeme Musa. I told you earlier that she's beautiful. You didn't believe me. White. Okay, you will see for yourself. And she's visually impaired. Welcome, Mary. Thank you for joining us here and welcoming us to your world of possibilities.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here, and I don't take it for granted. Thank you so much, Ms. Janet.
Wow, I love you.
I love you too.
Please, can you tell us what you do?
Okay.
And your name?
Okay, my name is Mary Omoyeme Musa. I'm a legal practitioner. I'm a human resource practitioner. I am the president founder of the MOM organization, and I'm the global secretary of the Network of Women with Disabilities.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. That was really brave. I've noticed that you're so beautiful and you're also visually impaired. you care for yourself that way? How? I really want to know.
Okay. Because I wasn't born with an impairment. I acquired it along the way. So as a child, I grew up, in a family where there was a lot of attention on looks and fashion. And so at a very tender age, I was already familiar with colors, but not just colors, but like the shades, like, would say turquoise blue, sea green, and all of those very complicated shades. I actually grew up knowing them um, because my mother, alongside her job, was selling fabrics and selling some other things, and my auntie. And so, whenever anybody wanted to buy and they came to the house, she would tell me to go and get, for instance, the mint green bag. And of course, I have to know which one is the mint green. So at a very tender age, I was familiar with fashion. And of course, I loved to look good. My mother was taking good care of me. And I just grew up with that, um, I don't know, mentality or something. And it never left me, of course.
So, being a visually impaired person, how do you care for yourself that you continue looking beautiful even after you became visually impaired?
Well, well, I I like to look good, so I read. I try to know what is good for my skin, and I have friends who cut across the works of life. I have a dermatologist friend, so I could call her and tell her, if I'm having allergies, and she could help me out with what to use. And then I have friends who are very fashionable like me. So they would, when they're doing their shopping, they could call me and be like, okay, let's go and shop together. And then we go and shop. Or if I'm not able to go with them, I just send them the money. And because they already know the kind of things that I like, they can get them for me. And, I don't know, I just like to pay attention to myself. And because I think it's majorly because of my friends. I have friends who think, talk, dress like me. So we relate every day, and of course, you get to know what's new, what's trending, and all of that. So I think that's basically how I get to take proper care of myself. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
It is interesting, good for us to care for ourselves. I agree with you. Please, I want you to tell us about your world. How did you become a visually impaired person? Let us know, please.
Okay. It happened about 21 years ago in the year 2000, April 20th, precisely. I was on holiday. I was in primary school then. First of all, I was born with my complete sight, with my physical sight. So this particular day, which happened to be Holy Thursday, that's the Thursday before the Good Friday. We had just vacated from school, so my mother was going to work, and my school was on the island, and my mother's work was on the island. And we were now on the mainland. We had just relocated to the mainland. Oh, this is Lagos, by the way. And on this particular day, my mother, because I was a handful as a child, so she did not want to juggle between taking care of me, running after me, and then concentrating. So she left me at home. And after a while, when she left with my uncle, my guardian, a relative, came into the room, pulled me from the bed, and eventually, after going all over the house, eventually took me into my uncle's room, Of course, it was empty, and to cut the long story short, she basically just started dipping her fingers in my eyes until both eyes gushed out. And basically, that was it. By the time she was done, she left, and people saw her because she was now naked. They came to the house, went around the house. Nobody was responding. I could hear them, but of course I was now in my pool of blood, bleeding profusely, weak, tired, dying. I couldn't respond. My grandma had fallen into a very deep sleep, and she couldn't hear me when I was screaming through all the torture that I was going through, you know. And eventually, they went around the house until they got to her window. And you know, sometimes God just hides treasure like that in trash, because when we were younger, my grandma used to snore so loudly, we all used to complain. But that day, the snoring was my saving grace, because had they not heard her snoring, they would have thought nobody was at home. But thank God they heard her, and then they persisted at her window until she woke up. So when she woke up, she came to the window, and they told her to come to the front door. She got to the front door, and she saw the crowd, and like, what's going on? And they said, you know, who's at home with you? She said, my guardian, the relative, and then myself. And she called out the relative. There was no response. And then she said, okay, maybe she had gone to the market. And they said, okay, what about Mary? And then she called out my name. I could hear her, but I was tired. I was dying, and I couldn't respond. And, you know, she concluded that maybe I'd gone with her. That's my relative now. Maybe I'd gone with her to the market. And they insisted and said, no, I must be inside, thankfully. And she called out again, and at this point, I just kind of stains on her, so they knew something was wrong. And so when she came into the room where I was lying, she saw me in my pool of blood, and it was a horrible, horrifying sight for her, and she fainted. She was resuscitated, and afterwards, you know, they took us to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, it was General Hospital at Ikeja at the time. That was the closest hospital to us. And because my grandma was in such a state of discombobulation, she did not go with anything but the house keys. In fact, she was in one piece, her nightie. And when we got to the hospital, the doctor said they were not going to attend to me, except my grandma produced a police report, a lawyer's report, and all of those documents. My grandma, however, was illiterate, so she couldn't do much. So she pleaded with them to attend to me while she sent somebody to the island to get my mom. It wasn't in the GSM days. It was later that year that GSM came in. And although my mother gave us her number was written down. But you know, like I said, in all the confusion, my grandma did not take anything with her. And so eventually someone was sent to the island where my mother was. And if you're familiar with the Lagos terrain, she went through, before she arrived at the hospital, through all the traffic situation, it was already like 4 p.m., 4:30. And at this time we were bleeding. I was bleeding, you know, under the sun. Everybody was begging, but the doctors turned deaf ears on everybody's plea until my mother arrived with the documents. And when she did, that was when I was admitted. And when I was admitted, the next day when I went for my surgery, the doctors realized that the eyes have been badly damaged and contaminated. And so it was going to be dangerous if they left them that way. So the tough option was to take them out. That was how a new world started for me.
Very, very terrible.
Yes.
I wasn't
I was really affected. But why did your relative do something like that?
Well, it was later discovered that she had manic depression. You know, she had an underlying mental illness. But, you know, because we were not very educated and aware about mental illness like that. I mean, the typical mental illnesses that we knew 21 years back was the ones we saw on the streets. Nobody knew someone could, I mean, at least we didn't know that you could be mentally unstable and be doing things normally. So that was a tough way of learning, you know, the realities of mental health for us.
It is well with us.
Yes.
Here you are beautiful. God has changed your sadness to happiness.
Yes.
Let's move on, my sister. So, I learned that you're a lawyer. Wow. What inspired you to become a lawyer?
Okay. Well, my inspiration to becoming a lawyer wasn't such a positive one. I was on a revenge mission. You know, as I grew, I realized the impact of what had happened to me. I was angry, resentful, I was bitter. I wanted justice to be served. I didn't understand why she was out there free, and I was going through such a terrible situation. And so that was why I vowed to become a lawyer so I could revisit the case. But unfortunately for me, when I got to 300 level at Babcock University and was studying criminal law, I realized that insanity indeed was a defense and that nothing could be done about it because her defense counsel had pleaded insanity at the time of the offense. So it was a closed case. It was discharged and acquitted, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. And so I met my Waterloo, and I was angry all over again. That was my motivation. Yeah. I know, right?
It is well. Thank you for this beautiful discourse. So now, when you felt you can't do anything about it, like you can't revenge for what she did because of what you studied. So now, what again? What next? What motivated you to continue to succeed as a lawyer? Tell me more.
Okay. At the time
apart from getting revenge and anger.
When I realized that nothing could be done about it, I was already in my 300 level. I couldn't go back and say I want to change my course, you know, so I just continued. It affected my education because I was now withdrawn, I was demotivated. I didn't have, you know, the willpower to go on, but I just continued anyway. And along the line, I had to forgive her. I had an experience with the Lord that totally changed my perspective of forgiveness. You know, everybody around me kind of felt the impact of what I was going through, even though they didn't know. But I knew that all the anger was bursting out of me. Nobody understood what was going on. They were only seeing the manifestation of the eruption that was going on inside of me. And of course, nobody wants to be around anybody that is bitter. So I started losing friends and everything. And it got to a point where I was crying on my bed that evening, and I was telling God that I don't know what is going on, but I just feel this heavy cloud around me. And I wanted Him to help me. And He told me that I was going through what I was going through because I had not personally forgiven my relative who did this to me. And I thought I didn't hear well. But I eventually went down on my knees. It was a very difficult one for me. But I forgave, and I told God to help me. and I let go. And I tell you sincerely, as I stood up from my knees by my bed, even though many years before she had been exonerated from the crime, from the offense, but that day, as I stood up from the floor after forgiving her, I literally felt the heaviness lifted off my shoulders. I felt light, free, and I felt like I was exonerated. And from then on, I became a new person. I started getting motivation to live again. I started acquiring positive energy. I had enough of all the negative energy that I was accumulating for a very bad cause. I started converting all of that to positivity. And you can never get wrong with positivity. And that was what began to change my life and shape my life again.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for letting us into your world. But wait, now I am inspired. We're happy that you've gotten to this point. But I have a question for you. As a visually impaired person, are you happy? Do you have any regrets being visually impaired? Do you think you've achieved something with it?
I am so happy that there's nobody that comes around me that doesn't feel the heat of my happiness. All my friends know me. In fact, they ask me if I think at all, if there's anything that worries me. But of course, everybody has stuff that worries them. I get anxious every now and then, but I don't allow anything rob me of my happiness. I believe that I am responsible for my happiness. So I try to be in control of things that happen to me. And, on my scale of priority, my peace of mind and happiness is tops. It's maybe number one. So I don't let anything tamper with it. It's an energy that keeps me going. Do I have regrets? I have regrets. I regret that I spent all that energy trying, now that I know better. I regret that I spent all that energy trying to, revenge, because now I know that it was just all useless.
I can understand your feeling, yes. I feel the same. But like you said, God understands everything. And for me, I wish you all the best in all you want to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you once again. I'm happy to have you here.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Ability Plus appreciates you.
Thank you.
And we love you.
I love you too.
I love you.
Am I going to have ice cream for this?
Will I have ice cream? Of course you will.
Thank you very much.
Say bye-bye to the viewers.
Bye.
Wow. I heard. She explained her story, how she survived, how she coped, how she became a lawyer. It is a faith, of course. I hope you're inspired. You hope you're motivated just like me. Thank you everyone for coming to our show. Thank you, Mary, for attending and for inspiring us with your story. I thank my interpreter, Patience, my friend. Thank you for coming and being a beautiful voice for today. My director, the cameraman, thank you. All of you in the studio and all of you watching from home, thank you. We love you all. next week, we hope to see another beautiful episode. Please keep watching as I leave you with these beautiful dance from Deaf Can Dance Group. Enjoy yourself. Love you.
Àwọn àdánfòlókè wọ́n fọ́nká sójú ọ̀run, wọn ò máa mọ bí wọ́n lọ. Elédùà ló ń ṣe ìkẹ́ wọn. Kò kẹ́yìn sí ọ̀rẹ́ o. Ohun ó wà níwájú rẹ o. Adédọ̀tun, Oyindamola mi.